Welcome to Shakey's podcast. Thanks as ever for joining. Loads of podcasts lined up, but this is actually the last one of 2024 as we get to the festive season and Christmas coming in the new year, but coming back in January with lots more podcasts. Today's guest, fantastic one to finish off the year. Born and bred in London, Croydon, English athlete who competed in the 200 and 400 metres. Olympian, as well as that, a breast cancer survivor, and somebody who now is a director at the Professional Cricketers Association. I'm talking about none other than Donna Fraser OBE. Hello, Donna.
Hello there. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Donna, are you going to make us all a bit jealous to start with? Where are you right now?
I'm in St Vincent and the Grenadines at the moment. So, an unexpected visit, but it's much warmer than it is in London.
My first question to get things going today is, Donna, tell me a bit about your childhood, family, upbringing, and then ultimately how you got into athletics and your interest in athletics and how you went down that route.
Yeah, sure. Well, you mentioned already, I'm born and bred a Croydonian and proud to be one. I know it doesn't get very good press, but hopefully myself and many athletes from that area are flying the flag. I got into sport pretty much because of my parents. There was always sport on TV growing up, from wrestling to horse racing to athletics, football, anything, you name it. And going to an all-girls primary school, I was surrounded by phenomenal teachers and inspirational peers, really. I grew up in an era where the girls stayed at home and did all the cooking, etc., and the men were the workers. But our primary school head teacher was amazing, and she'd always tell her girls, you can be whatever you want to be, no matter what, and just strive and work extremely hard. So I had that instilled in me from a very early age, and having come from parents who've come from St Vincent, the Caribbean, into the UK in the 60s, who experienced extreme racism, and there were struggles, but they instilled all of those values just to be true to myself and just work extremely hard. So sport was always in me, and then being introduced to athletics at my primary school, I was just, the world was my oyster. I actually thought I was an Olympian at that very young age, but primarily having fun. That was what I saw athletics as, but it opened so many doors for me along the way, going from English schools to representing my country at Olympics, World Championships, Europeans. Just really opened my eyes to the world, really, experiencing different languages, meeting new people, making new friends. So it really, the sport itself has made me who I am today.
How much of your success in athletics comes down to the ability that you had, and how much of it comes down to not, the hard training and dedication? If you were to weigh it up.
Yeah, I always think that everyone has a hidden talent. It's just finding that talent and nurturing that. So I think I was clearly talented. I was quick. But then there comes a point where you can get swayed by your environments, from me, boys and studies, for example. But I was very much focused on what I wanted to do. So my talent only took me so far. I then had to really put the hard work into it and change training groups several times to get to my final coach, who took me to the Olympic Games. But there's a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice that you have to make as a professional sports person. But yeah, talent can only take you so far. You have to try different things and put a lot of work into it, and dedication.
Do you remember your first competitive race?
Well, you're going to laugh at this. My first competitive race was at the age of 8, running 55 meters for my primary school. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was on a cinder track at Croydon Arena. And because I loved athletics, I knew how to get into the blocks position, and all the other girls didn't. So they were like looking at me thinking, what is she doing? And yeah, seeing my family in the crowd just made me even more nervous. And that was really a turning point for me. And I knew that in the heart of hearts, I always wanted to succeed in everything that I did.
Did a young Donna always wish to be an Olympian, or did the young Donna aspire to maybe be something else at one point?
Oh, definitely. With parents like mine, they wanted me to be a doctor or solicitor or something in law. But I think they saw how athletics made me happy, and they allowed me to do the go down every Tuesday and Thursday and train and just enjoy it. And those were the days when it was a hobby. It wasn't a professional career. But having watched the Olympic Games, the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles on TV, I was like, I want to get there. So again, from a young age, it was something that I wanted to. And I didn't realize the hard work I needed to put into it at the age of 8. I thought it was just fun and, making friends and being happy and winning. Little did I know it was far from that.
How important was a support network around you, and who was that support network for you as you were coming through that journey?
Oh, hugely. I mentioned my primary school teachers. They were just fantastic when I was growing up. And my parents have always been there, my sisters, my siblings, hugely supportive. But I really do have to put the dedication down to my coach, my final coach, who not just that coach, but all the coaches I've had, the hours and the dedication they had, out in the cold, watching me, wanting me to progress. And this was all done for free. This is voluntary. And I always say coaches in any sport do not get the recognition, especially at grassroots. They don't get the recognition that they deserve because it is their own time. Yes, they do all the qualifications to be able to coach, but this is their own time they're putting into all their athletes that they coach. So yeah, I had an amazing support network as I progressed through the ranks. My nutritionist, my physio became part of that support network, because without them, Donna couldn't be whole.
What's the most nervous you have ever been leading into any race?
That's a really good question. I always put it down. There's 2 types of nerves with me. There's nerves when, as an athlete, I'm talking, there's nerves where I'm fully confident and I feel good and I know I'm going to nail this, and that's good nerves. The bad nerves is if I've been injured or I haven't felt well leading up to the competition. And I think, oh my goodness, how am I going to get around this 400 meters? So that's the bad nerves, because there's that uncertainty. But when you're on the start line, they do go. Once that gun goes, it's off. Anything can happen. So the nerves literally fall away. But it's really difficult to pinpoint when I've been most nervous, because they're all on more or less the same level. But you learn as you progress in a professional career how to deal with them. I think that's key. Breathing was a big thing for me. If I was in the call room and really getting, oh my gosh, my heart's going, that's nervous energy that I really need. I need the energy to compete. So breathing is what really calmed down my heart rate and the nerves, and just thinking positive thoughts more than anything else.
The 4th year of high school, I got the chance to run the 200 and the 400 meters, and oh my God, they takes you, like, the importance of the bends and how you just lose all your pace going around that bend. What made you choose those events? And why didn't you choose the 100? I just want to understand the difference in that.
Yeah, well, firstly, the events chose me. If I had the choice, I definitely would have stuck to the 100 meters. Over a period of time, I literally grew. My legs got longer and my start got slower. So 100 meters wasn't quite right for me. Having said that, Usain Bolt has completely blown my theory out of the water, because he's way taller than me, but his fast twitch fibers are definitely on point. I wish I had those. But yeah, I love the 200. I think the 200 was definitely my event. It gave me time to, if I had a bad start, I had time to wind up, because the latter part of 100 meters was my best part, hence why I moved up to the 200. But then I plateaued over the 200 and wasn't improving at the pace I should have been. So some bright spark suggested I do the 400. And I was like, really? Are you serious? 400 is a long way. I know it's painful. But what was the choice? Either stay the same and not progress over the 200, or try a different event and give it a go. And that's the kind of person that I am. I'll always try something. If it doesn't work, then at least I can say I tried. But when you don't know the unknown, you will never know. So my first 400 was very interesting, to say the least. My sister was there that day and she said, just jog the first 200. You know what that feels like. And then once you hit the 200 meter mark, just go as hard as you can. And I did just that. And I can say hand on heart, it was painful, but I won the race. And I thought, actually, this is not so bad. If I do it properly and get a bit of coaching at doing the 400, then maybe let's see what happens. And the rest is history. It became my event.
I've seen also that you competed in relay.
Yes.
I want a question to ask. What did you enjoy the relay compared to solo?
Yeah, I love this question because I often get asked that, you once you've done your individual, you have to come together as a team with some of the girls potentially that have beaten you in the individual. So you have to put that to one side. And I always saw the relay as a second chance. If I'd not run as well in the individual, then I had another opportunity to get a medal, whatever championships it was, as part of the relay. And I always say, and this works in business as well, you can't get a baton around a track without a team. And without the other three, we wouldn't have had any success. But we all brought something different to the table. And having said that, we were able to come home with some medals. And I would sometimes run the first leg because I probably would have been the most experienced as part of the team. Sometimes I was second leg, rarely ran last leg because I hated that leg because it's more pressure. Sometimes third. So again, just depending who was in the team and what skills we all had, then the positions may change. But the dynamics in the 4x4 girls, I always called them my sisters because we'd always come together and just be supportive of each other and G each other up. And you get your confidence from each other. And that's something that I definitely miss.
When did you know that you were going to your first Olympics? Do you remember that kind of moment where you were and how you felt at that time?
Yeah, I do. When I got the letter and read it, my parents were around me and I just leapt for joy because prior to that, I'd gone to the Commonwealth Games in '94 for the relay and didn't get a run. So I was absolutely devastated that I'd gone all the way to Canada, so excited to have my first senior international and not get a chance to run. So when I came back, I was so on it. I was like, right, I'm changing training groups. I'm changing my whole setup and a lot of things changed. So when I got that letter, all those sacrifices that I'd done 2 years before paid off. And my coach was just like, finally, but not only just going to the Olympics, but going for the individual. So I was absolutely guaranteed to get a run, not just going for the relay. So yeah, that moment reading that letter that I'd been selected for the individual and the relay was like, yes, I've achieved the goal that I'd set when I was 8 years old. But, reality sets in when you get the kit and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to the Olympics. It's a bit nerve wracking.
Can you remember your first actual run in the Olympics? I'd imagine you remember that pretty well.
I remember the run. I don't remember the leader. I do remember walking out into the stadium and seeing the Olympic flame and thinking, oh my gosh, this is real. And the thing is, it's really interesting. As an athlete, and when some of my best races, I don't hear the crowd. You don't hear the crowd at all, which is really weird because when I see some of my races on TV, I'm like, oh my gosh, how could you not have heard that crowd? But you're so focused. Yeah, absolutely. You're so focused and just thinking about you in that space, in that bubble, that no other things can phase you. Of course, definitely you can let the nerves get the better of you, but they didn't for me. And I didn't get to the final or anything. I got to the second round, and those are the days when it was 4 rounds of the 400. So
what do you think was your best ever race where you just felt like everything clicked today? Coach was giving you high fives, double high fives, and you're just feeling like that felt right?
Oh gosh, that is a really good question because I'll say this one first. At the time, I didn't think it was my best race. That was the Sydney final because I missed out on a medal. But when I look back, it was my best race because it's the fastest I've ever run. And it's still my personal best to this day. And I don't think I'll ever get close to it.
Tell us what that is and what event that was.
Yeah, so that was Sydney 2000, the Olympics, my second Olympic Games. And again, 4 rounds. I ran a personal best in every single round to get to the final. So I was in good shape, and that summer I had a great opportunity of training with Kathy Freeman from Australia, who everyone will remember. Yeah, absolutely amazing individual. So I was in shape, and it was probably that lack of self-belief that I didn't realize how good a shape I was in. And now I look back, I think, oh my gosh, Donna, you silly woman, what are you thinking? But anyway, I I went into that race confident, but in the back of my mind, I was in lane 2, which I hadn't had through the rounds, and that threw me a little bit, especially when long legs that I had, I'd have to work a little bit harder on the turns, and that threw me slightly. So yeah, the race as it unfolds, it wasn't until the last 150 or so I started to really run and pulled it back. But I think it was the one and only time I wish it was 450 meters, because I was closing, and I came fourth. I missed out on a medal. So that, at the time, devastation, the whole works. But it's at the same time really happy for Kathy Freeman, because I trained with her that summer. We became good friends. So I was really happy and over the moon for her. But then I was devastated that I wasn't on the rostrum. But there's always a positive side. I did break the 50-second barrier that I hadn't done before. So, you put things into perspective a little bit afterwards. You digest, you reflect. And I was proud of myself for breaking the 50-second barrier, but kicking myself at the same time for not sticking to the plan in the race. So it's a mixed bag of happy and sad. But yeah, overall, it was probably my best race that I'd run. I ran it wrong.
Do you remember your last race at the top level? And did you know before you ran that was going to be it, or was it just it happened afterwards that you felt that was time to call it a day?
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I was diagnosed with which you will come on to in due course, in 2009. And my last race, two last races actually, one in Crystal Palace and one in Newcastle, was just like, oh my gosh, this is just too emotional. People clapping, knowing that it was going to be my last race and I was retiring. It was emotional. It was really an emotional roller coaster, in the sense that this is the last time I'm going to put a pair of spikes on, and this is the last time I'm going to run 400 meters. But at the same time, I was happy, thinking no more lactic acid, no more pain. But yeah, it was a tough decision to make, but I had to put my health first. And I made the right decision. And, years down the line, I was able to hang up my spikes on my terms.
And maybe I've got this wrong. Had you had news already? Did you know that you had been diagnosed with breast cancer? Okay. Please tell me then where you were and when you found and something else. Did you see signs? Because I see now when I watch and find out more about breast cancer that people still miss the signs. But yeah.
Yeah, and I always say that, as athletes, we are so body aware, and I think that's a positive. And in 2009, after coming from 2008, my fourth Olympic Games, I was very disappointed again, and was so adamant that I was going to do well in 2009 and go to the World Championships. And then the May of 2009, I found the lump in my breast, and I thought, oh, it's probably down to training hard and bench pressing and press ups and all sorts. But, you follow all the advice that you hear, if you do find a lump, keep an eye on it, go and check it out if it doesn't change. And I did just that. I went to my GP and I said, I found this lump. She checked it out. She said, well, regardless, it will need to be removed, and we'll send it off for a biopsy. So I did all that. And in that time, I was still training and focused on getting ready for the outdoor season. And then when I went back for that May, went back for the results, and they told me that it was early stages of breast cancer, I was like, what? No family history. It was almost having an outer body experience where they were talking to someone else and I was watching them talking to me. It was really bizarre. So yeah, it was a tough decision to have to, go through, and the appointments and understanding the whole journey, because it's something that I'd never experienced before, and reading and listening, it took its toll, in the sense that, I was always used to being dictated to training, you're doing this session today. And then when you're hearing about your health and what's next, it's quite scary, you just don't know. Again, it's the unknown. And I think that's where the fear can set in. But I'll always say that if I hadn't been an athlete, I probably wouldn't have got through it as well as I did, because in my mind, I thought, well, I know the news now. I can only deal with what I have to do next. I can't change the past. I can't change that I haven't got this diagnosis. I just have to work with it and go through the journey. So, you know, I took all the advice, and then it was presented to me to have a mastectomy, and I was like, where the hell did that come from again? Because I didn't even consider that in the slightest. I was due to have radiotherapy. That was what I'd had my mind set on. And then when I was presented with that option, it threw another spanner in the works of thinking, well, what do I do? Do I go down the route of radiotherapy, or do I just cut to the chase? And, you know, now you know what kind of person I am. I just cut to the chase and was like, let's go for the mastectomy. Let's get rid of the badness, which I called it. This is the bad stuff that's in me, and just see what happens years down the line. And you know what? It was the best decision that I'd ever made, because to me, I feel like that doesn't change who I am. The operation removed a small part of me, but that was the bad part of me. And that's what helped make me feel better. But I'm still me. I'm still Donna Fraser, who is, I'd like to think, the fun-loving person, the inspiration, and all of those things. That doesn't change who I am as an individual. So it helped me get through that recovery, and it made me come back out of retirement to hang up my spikes on my terms, which is what I did in 2012.
Been really, really tough, really, really tough. But you know what? As you proved in your athletics career with the injury, you can come back, and you've continued. You know, you've fought back this one as well. The badness is gone, and you're striving forward. So well done you. You're now an ambassador, which I think. So could you tell me a little bit about your work as an ambassador, who it's for, and what kind of stuff that they do to support people?
Yeah, definitely. So while I was recovering after my operation, you're thinking, oh, you know, I've gone through this, I've recovered, but I felt that my experience was for a reason. I always put things down, things happen for a reason, and how can I help others? So I connected with the then Breakthrough Breast Cancer, which is now Breast Cancer Now, because they've merged. And I got involved with them purely to tell my story, because breast cancer doesn't discriminate. I was a fit athlete. It doesn't matter who you are. Anyone can get any form of cancer. So it's just being aware, and just taking those steps to make sure that you're checking everything out. And my favorite one, their campaign is Touch, Look, Check TLC, which anyone could do, because breast cancer isn't just a women's disease. Men get breast cancer as well. So I felt that with the platform I had as an athlete, could I be a voice to share that news, that you don't have to be, have family history, because I didn't. And I still had that diagnosis, but just it's all about prevention. So I was lucky I caught it early. Some others aren't. They leave it too late, and it's too far gone into stage 4 potentially, and it's too late for treatment. So prevention is key for me. So those are the messages that I will go out and about and tell my story, my journey, and hopefully dampen that fear that many people have in terms of getting themselves checked out. So I'm really, really on board with Breast Cancer Now, been with them ever since, do all sorts of challenges for them, which is not fun, from jumping out of a plane to doing the marathon to raise funds for the great work that the scientists do, because they're forever trying to find treatments and cures for the disease, and they do a phenomenal job, from support to the research as well. You
sharing your story will lift, I'm sure, so many others out there. So well done. Keep up the good work. Aftermath of your career. So you've finished your athletics career. You've had this battle on your hands. You've come through that, and then going into kind of the workspace and the normal. How was that transition for you, with not having that competition that must the buzz that must have given you? How did you cope with that change?
So having parents that I had, they didn't want me just to do sport. So not many people know that I worked alongside my athletics career. So I was in tourism at first, and then I worked at EDF Energy for 18 years, which is feels like most of my life, in health and well-being, leading on their health and well-being programs, and still competing, but I was part-time. So not many companies do that for elite athletes, and I think more should, because I was able to set up my working career alongside my athletics career. So when my athletics career did finish, that transition wouldn't be as tough as some athletes do find. So as soon as I finished my athletic career, hung up my spikes, closed that door, that chapter's moved on. I was able to continue at EDF Energy, and it was tough. I did miss the athletics, don't get me wrong. I did miss the warm weather training, and so, you know, missing the winters at home was just brilliant then. But I had to change my mindset again and think, right, now this is the next chapter of my life, and how can I excel in that as well? So I had a different focus, different mindset. I didn't have to think about, you know, what I was eating as much, which was a nice thing. So I found the positives in that transition period. But again, my employees were very, very good and supportive along the way.
Awarded an OBE, I mentioned at the top of this when I introduced you, Donna Fraser OBE. After that important title, how did you? When did you get that exactly, and how did that feel? Because again, you're getting appreciated for what you've done in your life. That must be really rewarding, and also such a proud moment for your parents, I'd imagine.
Yeah, hugely. So while I was at EDF Energy, I got involved in their employee network. So I eventually chaired their Black, Asian, minority ethnic network. And we really went from strength to strength in my 2-year tenure that I was chairing, purely because we changed the narrative of what we were there to do, and making sure what we were doing was aligning to the business goals, which some of the networks weren't quite doing. They were working in silos. And that work just went from strength to strength. And then I moved on to UK Athletics, where I became their EDI lead. Subsequently went to the Commonwealth Games, Birmingham, and was the head of inclusion and engagement. So that it was how I was catapulted into the world of EDI, and then to be recognized in the 2021 honors was just like, what? You know, I thought it was a mistake. I thought it was a hoax. I had to ring up the Home Office, not the Home Office, the Cabinet Office, to find out if it was true, because I was thinking, what, me? What? I'm just trying to do the best job that I can do. So yes, I still am, pinch me, over the moon to be recognised for that. But I also say that I don't do what I do to get awards and accolades. I do what I do to make a difference, and in my own environment and other people's environment. So to be recognised for that, yes, I'm over the moon and really honoured for that. Yes, my parents were over the moon as well, but it was during COVID time, so I could only take one person with me, which I took my sister, who was there from the start with my athletics as well. But yeah, my parents are very, very happy.
Currently now with the Professional Cricketers Association, the PCA, you're director there. How long have you been in that role? And tell us a bit about your role, please.
Yes, so I have been initially it was the Director of Equality, Diversity, Inclusion for 2 years, October gone now, which is hard to believe. 2 years has flown so quickly. And primarily it's a double-edged sword. One side of it is to implement EDI throughout the organisation, and also the education of EDI to our professional players. And then the other side is also being a critical friend for the PCA, who has EDI knowledge and expertise, because initially PCA didn't have that. Hence why they put this role in place. So I'm the first of the kind to have this role. It didn't exist before myself. So there's some challenges that come with that, but I see it as a positive, because all the roles I've had has always been a first. So I can make it my own and mold it in the way and lead it the way I want to. But at the same time, when it's something new in the environment you're trying to embed, it can be challenging, because people don't quite understand what's Donna here to do. You know, it's something new, and you know, there's always that fear with change. Everyone has a battle with change, but once that's embraced, then things start to move in the direction that I want to. And I know that's the case, because it's always been that in all the roles that I've had. Anything new, it's like, I don't quite get this, Donna. I'm not sure what this is. What is it? But once you have those conversations, it takes time to bring people with you.
How do you do that? Because That is that might be your sweet spot. You might not want to give me that information.
No, that's fine.
But that is interesting because sometimes you feel like people can go so far, but then they seem like the walls just come up, and it's like, I'm uncomfortable with this subject. Can't go any further with this. How do you get through that and help them get on that journey?
Definitely. I think I understand now that there are going to people who are going to come with you, and there's those, as you say, who will put the wall up and like, absolutely no. There are some that I've been able to really knock down that wall that they put up, and there's others that I think there's no way. So why am I going to spend all my energy and time trying to bang down that wall that is absolutely not going to shift? So I'd say that it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of conversation. And not through email. I mean, actually going to meet people to find out, really get into the core of their thinking. And that is a lot of time and energy. It really is. And I'm surprised I'm still doing this job, but I love it because it's so interesting to watch how I always think people are like onions. There's layers to people. And if you can gradually peel back those layers, you'll get to the core of the issue, and that you'll always somehow find a hook that will help them understand what you're trying to get across. But it can take some time. And yeah, I think I wouldn't be the person I am if I couldn't deal with challenges. I've had it all my life, as you've heard some of it already. And I'm not one to quit either that easily. So coming into this role, yes, it's new. And it came at a time where there was a lot going on in this space within cricket as well, with the ICEC report that was coming out. And I saw that as a blessing, in all honesty, because it gave me a platform to have those conversations, sometimes uncomfortable conversations, but at least that report was there almost as a catalyst. So yeah, it's been an interesting 2 years. But I think you have to be creative and innovative as well, because I think with this space, when people hear equality, diverse, inclusion, I think the barriers automatically go up anyway, because it's been a buzzword for a number of years. It's the in thing that everyone's talking about. More roles in this space are coming to the fold, because when I first started out, it wasn't really a job. It was an add-on, whereas now it's actually a full-time job, and it really is. It's no longer part of HR or the people team. It's a standalone role. So it has evolved, and I do think that, we are making some headway in the cricket space. It is slow, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we're the only sport or organisation where it is slow. It could be going at a quicker pace, because you're thinking we're 2024. How are some things still happening in this space? But we've seen it, the riots just a few months ago. It's just like, seriously. And sometimes I stop and think, it's like, am I making a difference? And then I look back at the things that we have achieved, not dismissing the things that are still going wrong, because those things we have to focus on, but at least we're achieving something. And that's what keeps me going.
Small steps. Somebody said to me in the Cricket Scotland case that, been found to be institutionally racist, and maybe I was a bit naive to think, within 6 months, a year, we could sort of, and that person said to me, it'll take 10 years, it could take a generation, it could take decades before you really get that change. And that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me to understand that, change will not happen instantly. So what does the future hold then, Donna? You're in this space just now. What goals, ambitions, aspirations do you still have that you want to do in the future? And if there's any little insights that you can give us about what you've got planned, feel free to tell us.
Well, I always say this, and it's nothing new. My aim is to make myself redundant, because if what role I'm in that space is truly inclusive, then you don't need me anymore to keep driving that agenda. So that's my aim. So I can put my feet up and just rock away on my veranda with
get you and take you to another sport. You're never going to rest, Donna.
Oh no, I don't know. Yeah, there's still a lot to be done. I'm not done here. This 2 years in is just the beginning, really. The first 2 years is, hopefully people understanding where I'm coming from, that I'm not here. And I always say this, I'm not the EDI police. I am not here to tell you you must not do. I'm helping you raise the awareness that if you do, these are the consequences. And you also need to understand that your actions can have consequences. So it's that kind of language, changing that narrative a little bit more. And I've only recently added people ahead of on my title, because fundamentally this is about people. This is about respecting people. This is about understanding difference. It's all of those things. So with that added to the equity as opposed to equality, diversity, inclusion, it's so broad. It really is broad. But I think that people element, once everyone can understand that, that is exactly what EDI is. It is about people, because we're all unique, we're all different, and we also have to understand with those differences, you have to need to behave differently. So not one size fits all. So I think what's next for Donna, I've got a lot more work to do, maybe another 2 years, and then we'll see where I am.
Donna Fraser OBE, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, an honour to speak to you, and it's been inspiring to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.